Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Hamley. We're in the 2024 election cycle, and pundits, pollsters, and political operatives are trying to figure out which groups need the most courting to ensure the vote for their side. When President Biden and Vice President Harris were elected, Black women were given a lot of credit for turning out the vote. But this year, it's different, and there's a lot of conversation about the Black male vote, be it Democratic or Republican. Up next on Another View, the original radio roundtable, Roger, Will, Bill, and Carol, and they have lots to say. Stay tuned. Another View will be right back after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Hamley. In celebration of Black History Month, we decided to bring back some history of our own. We're checking in with our original Another View roundtable pundits, and we are super excited that they are here with us today. So let's meet them. Roger Chesley is a contributing columnist for the Virginia Mercury and freelance writer. He's a former columnist and editorial writer for the Virginian Pilot and the Daily Press. And I haven't seen you in so long, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good, Barbara. When you talk about original, does that mean we're all old now?
No. That just means we're seasoned. We're seasoned. That's what we are.
Okay, I like that.
Seasoned. Carol Pretlow is an associate professor of political science at Norfolk State University and is currently working on continued research related to experiences in her home community of Smithfield, Virginia. She's calling them Notes of a Country Girl. So what are Notes of a Country Girl?
Well, I have to say the inspiration came from a former professor at Norfolk State who was talking to a class about me, and I was outside, and she said, but she just country. And I think she meant it as an insult, but I was like, oh yeah, I am country and real proud of it because the Black community supported me when I went to college. When my mom passed, they were there for me. When I came to Norfolk State, even Smithfield Foods was there to help some of my students.
So you just giving Smithfield a big old shout out,
Yeah,
huh?
I'm giving Smithfield a shout out.
Oh, that is great. Well, joining us by phone is Bill Thomas, who is our resident conservative community activist, and now he's also a grandfather. Congratulations, Bill.
Oh, I love it. I love being a grandfather. It makes me feel young, and seeing little people that look like you once did is very encouraging.
So is it a girl or a boy?
I have girls.
Girl. Oh, wrapped around your little finger. Her little finger.
Absolutely. All three of them. All three of them.
Oh, that's awesome. And also joining us by phone is Dr. Wil Laveist, former columnist and talk radio host in Hampton Roads, and now educator, author, and media consultant based in Philadelphia. How are you, Will?
I'm doing well. Always a pleasure to be with you, Barbara. And I, too, am a grandfather, but I'm a young
congratulations on these babies. We loving it. It is so good to be back with you guys. I tell you, I am so excited. And so, we always bring up the stuff. So let's get started. So when President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris were elected in 2020, many credited Black women as a major force in getting out the vote. This time the focus is on black men, but not for the same reason. So according to pollsters and others, a significant number of black men say they're not sure Biden is the answer, and they may not vote at all. As one gentleman said in a recent Washington Post article, and I quote, "I don't think Biden is it, but I don't see what else is out there. I want Democrats to give me substance. You can't dangle carrots and assume we'll vote for you just because we don't like the other platform." Roger, should the Democratic Party be concerned?
Very concerned, but and so I do understand there's this sort of separation, disaffection, feeling that the Democratic Party, in particular, and the Biden-Harris team, have not really reached out and said, "This is what we are doing for African Americans. This is what we are doing for African American men." We see other groups feel like they're getting ahead, and maybe have been courted in a way that black men are not being courted. However, the problem is, if you feel that there's not enough happening there, the worst thing would be to sit out the election, because the other side doesn't care about you at all. And secondly, it's not just the presidential race. It's also congressional races. It's also local races that might be on the ballot. So that's one point. And the second major point, and I shared this column from Michael Harriot with you from thegrio.com, is what are Democrats doing to try to get more votes from white people? Because they have the overall clout in the race, because Trump got 55% of white voters in 2020. So it's not just holding on to blacks, Latinos, and Asians. It's what are you doing to try to get some more votes from white people? Don't just limit yourselves to people of color in the contest.
Well, is it a PR problem? Is it a messaging problem?
It could be, but I think you see a group of people that have been so supportive of Democratic presidential candidates, and obviously, you have to keep those voters to have a legitimate shot of winning. But it's not just that. It's not just messaging. It's also, well, what have you really done? Now, the Biden-Harris team can say, well, look, more black people are working. There are economic conditions that are better now. But I think there's a feeling that helps everybody, and maybe not just this particular group. And it's a constant problem for Democrats. You know that black people are your most supportive group. However, they make up only 13% of the population. So,
even if you had all of them, it still would be. It's
a constant dance. If you target them, everybody else is going to say, "What about us?" And it puts black people often in the feeling of, we support you, but what are you doing for us? And it's a constant struggle, I think, for Democratic candidates.
Well, what are your thoughts?
To me, I think it's not just a messaging problem, but really like a willingness problem, because this just sounds so much like a broken record, that the Democrats have this problem of being dismissive or not taking for granted the black vote. This is going on when, and I was a columnist there in the area writing about it. I mean, even President Obama struggled with that, with how to be identified other than the fact that he was a black man. Identified that his policies were really making a difference for black people. And, he was talking about, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right.
So it's like, what's the problem here? To be able to say, look, we identify this constituency. We know that they have particular needs and interests, and let's target those things. It seems like back in the 1960s, that wasn't as much of a difficulty to really be willing to come out and say it and do something about it. And I think that if you go back to the 1960s, that cost the Democratic Party a lot in terms of white voters and so I think there's a fear about that. And I really think that look, the point about white voters is very true. There are 25 million poor white people in America. 25 million. Mm-hmm. There's only, in comparative, 9 million black poor people, right? And a lot of those poor people could be eligible voters. So why not do policies that address the real needs of people that's going to make a difference in people's lives, right, and really be bold about it and come out and address it? I think the Democrats really have a problem, a willingness with being bold. I think about health care. Mm-hmm. Remember health care, Medicare for all. Some were saying, look, we got both sides of Congress. We got the presidency. Let's go and give nationalized health care. They weren't bold enough to do that. You know how many people that would have helped? And so, yes, we got Obamacare, yes, but we don't have the nationalized health care that many of the, major industrialized nations have, So people are still waiting months to be able to get specialized care, So I think it's a willingness, a boldness problem that the Democrats continue to have. It's a head scratcher for me.
So, Bill, does that mean then that the Republicans are going to just swoop in and take all of those that have decided they're not voting for Biden to move over to the other side?
Oh, I don't think there's a problem with President Biden. President Biden is President Biden. He's not president. And I think where we lose focus is that we don't have interests that are protective of what we do. And this is a 25-year story for me. I learned long ago from Congressman William Clay of Kansas and Missouri, who told us no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. Mm-hmm. Properties being stolen from us at universities all across the Tidewater area has been stolen. There's no discussion about that. If you drive down Church Street in Bramlington, you'll see where all these folks have been blown out, and there's brand new, spanking new apartments and condos along there. I was just shocked, but pleased to see that. The problem is, under Democrats or Republicans, black people aren't being driving at the same tide as other folks are, and that's not white people. That's Asians. How can we get $300-400 billion to Ukraine, and our people are sleeping out in the streets, and our schools are no good, and our roads are no good? I mean, it's not. And my good friend Roger was saying that the Republicans don't give a damn about or don't care about black people. They don't really care about anybody, really. If you look at it, they care about their own, as the Democrats, their own self-interest. That's not our problem. Our problem is, and I'll be quiet after this. My son now lives in Baltimore's suburbs, and there was an article in the paper on Fox News 3 in Baltimore, the local station there, that 77% of our black students in high school in Baltimore are not reading past elementary school level. We're not preparing our children to be successful and competitive. We're blaming other people. We're looking at other distractions that could be us. And Roger, my good dear friend, he has the solution. He was raised in Detroit. He understands what's happening.
Actually raised in D.C., but thank you. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I thought it was Detroit.
No, he worked in Detroit.
You worked in Detroit. Okay?
Yes.
I missed one word. But here's what you did do, and you laugh at it. And our children, our babies are out here missing. People don't know where their kids are. That poor little kid named Cody over there in Newport News. Nobody knows where he is. You have a second grader in Newport,
Hampton.
and it's not Newport, in Newport News on the peninsula, and because you don't want to really address the real issue. This grade school kid in Newport News shot a teacher, and then when the police questioned him, oh yeah, I shot the bee. I mean, this is the issue. When are we going to recognize that our problem is us? We have to fix our families. We have to fix our churches. We can't wait on the white man. We can't wait until somebody else, Biden or anybody else, comes and saves us. We have to save ourselves.
So, Carol, as a political scientist, if we don't vote, what happens?
Well, I think they're going over into the Trump field. And I think that to a large extent, Trump supporters kind of count on that. I have been asking some questions in my hometown of people there. I don't like this class designation, upper middle class, lower middle class, and all of that. But they are people who are hard workers who are just barely making it. And then they're saying, well, we support Trump. And my question is, why? Because he's not going to support you. He's looking at the money and what he can do to get office. So I think that what Biden could also do is look at outlying areas. Look at Suffolk and Smithfield and maybe Hampton, and look at the poor factory workers. It's not that they automatically just love Trump, but they're not hearing anything from the Democratic Party. They're not hearing any proposals. This is what we're going to do for you. Let's talk to labor organizers, teachers unions even. Talk to them and find out. And then maybe strategize from there how to have people who represent those interests in the community to help get votes and turn out.
Roger, so since the focus seems to be so much on black males in particular right now, what are some of the issues?
And I'm not exactly sure why that focus is.
That was the next
I don't know
question,
if that is more of a created controversy or if that's actually something that's really true out there.
So there was a New York Times Center poll in late October. It found that 22% of black voters this was not just males. This was all black voters. 22% in the 6 battleground states, including Michigan, would support Trump if the general election were held today, while 71% said they would support Biden. Now, Trump won the support of just 8% of black voters in the 2020 election and 6% in 2016.
I think the first thing that you can take from that is beware of polls taken so far before the election. There have been, I can't remember the last time a Republican presidential candidate got 10% of the black vote in any particular campaign. I think for Democrats, though, the bigger issue is we can't afford black people to stay home. So the Biden campaign has to say, this is what I've done for you so far. This is what I've done. I was part of helping Obamacare come into being. We've done some things that help with student debt. Yes, that might not be just black people who benefited from this, but indeed, numerous numbers of black people benefited from this. They have to hammer that. There might be a messaging problem, but I do feel that there is some sense that black men and women feel like we're not being catered to enough. That's not a new story.
Right.
And, the other guy who led an insurrection might not even be on the ballot. We're having Supreme Court, hearings today.
It's going on today, right.
About whether he can actually be on the ballot in certain states. That's what you're up against. And to me, it is just amazing that it could even be close. It's just amazing that the other guy who oversaw a pandemic and made so many mistakes in handling that is even in this. And it says as much about the mindset of white voters and white supremacy as it does anything else, in my view.
Yeah, because it lets them come along. So, Will, I'm focusing this on Roger, Bill, and Will because you all are black men. Yeah. If you were to sit down with Biden today, then what issues would you say to him would resonate within the black community in general, black men in particular, to swing this around? And start with you, Will.
Economic development, business opportunities to develop businesses. The federal government, contrary to what Bill Thomas said about us just helping ourselves, the federal government basically created the white middle class through the GI Bill, supporting opportunities to purchase homes in the suburbs and all of that. And black people were locked out of that through redlining. So the federal government created the white middle class. So the federal government has the ability to put forth policies that could provide opportunities for developing black businesses, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's where we're at. Martin Luther King was talking about that after winning, making certain gains in terms of the law, and then seeing that it wasn't changing the wealth gap. In fact, black people were still suffering, and started talking about, why are we spending so much on the military and war and not using these funds to help develop businesses, develop people to have an opportunity to have ownership, home ownership. So I would say that. And I would also say criminal justice, obviously, is something that resonates because of how we are twice and 3 times more likely to be locked up, to be arrested, and all of these things for doing the same behavior as whites in the same search situation. So we're not looking for a free ride. We're not looking to not be properly prosecuted for crimes that we commit, because truth be told, and Roger knows this, as journalists, we've covered crimes and covered court, and we know black people do not have a problem putting other black people in jail for things that they did. Black juries do not have a problem with that. But absolutely, there is an issue with our criminal justice system, which has basically replaced slavery in many ways, of being able to incarcerate and then exploit, make money off of us, while our communities, our families are not acquiring wealth. So I would tell them, target those 2 things. And guess what? There are 25 million white people who also would love to have opportunities to develop businesses and create wealth for their families. So if you did something to target poor, like remember we had a war on poverty in this country? Yeah. If you did something to do that, guess what? A lot of these MAGers who are running around Trump, and I say MAGers for a reason, right? They would also say, look, hey, I can get with that, because that's a lot of the reasons why they're running behind it, because no one else is really speaking boldly to their issues. So they're going with the guy that's the shyster that's out there claiming that he's their spokesman, because the other ones, no one else, Biden clearly is not boldly speaking to those issues.
Speaking to one thing that you brought up about criminal justice and social justice in general. So in the documentary Black Men in America on the Road to 2024 that was on MSNBC this week, past week, Reverend Al Sharpton talked about the fact that we have, in terms of social justice, we have moments but not momentum. Because, when George Floyd happened, when, Trayvon Martin happened, when Breonna Taylor happened, these were moments where people got upset and they took to the streets and they concerned, but there was nothing behind it to keep the momentum going. But Bill, is that the job of federal government?
Absolutely not. And it's really so sad. And I love my brother. I love both of them very much, and my sister there, and you as well. Okay, but we're looking. Here comes the blood. We're looking, and it's really not funny. It really isn't. Our children are dying on these streets. They're being uneducated. Even look at Virginia Union. They've lost their accreditation. It is the fact that in many other HBCUs are losing that. We're losing our faith. It's not Trump. Nobody can give a hill of beans about Trump or about Biden. They care about themselves and their families. And our families are suffering so much. And all I'm hearing now is something that the white man or something that somebody else has done against us. And that is true. They stole our property. They stole our institutions and didn't give us the same issues that they gave other white land-grant colleges. No. But we've lost our faith. We don't have families. We used to be poor. Now, we weren't poor. My dad was in the Army. Mom was a nurse. But we lived among each other, and we all got along under worse conditions. Our conditions of our community, every day you cut the TV on, there are 13 and 14-year-old African-American children dying in their streets. And we're talking about Trump. We're talking about Biden. They're presidents. And, whether or not they got elected. And now we're trying to say that Roger, you want to go back to state rights? Where
Barbara, I
states
can connect the
determine?
dots for
Yeah.
Bill.
No, I
Go
don't
ahead.
want you.
I can
I'll let
connect
you
the
guys
dots
talk.
to
Okay,
Bill.
hold on, Bill. Hold on. Let me hear what Will has to say about that, because we're all kind of we all have something to say. But go ahead, Will.
So, and quickly,
Real quickly, Bill, hang on.
Why I talked about business and economic development and criminal justice. If you have a black father and black mother in the home, in the house, or in the community, they own businesses. They are creating wealth, right? That black father now, that black woman, because black women in prison is also at astonishing numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They would be home, guess what? Building their communities, building their families, taking care of their children. That's the key. A lot of this is tied to poverty, that you see the problems that Bill is pointing out. They're tied to poverty.
Yeah.
So if you have businesses, if you have financially healthy communities, just walk around, look at the communities that you see that you got wealth. Do you have those kinds of problems that Bill talked about? Yes, you still have issues, you still have crime, because humans are humans. We're not perfect. We're gonna do dastardly things. But for the most part, in those communities that are healthy and financially wealthy and so forth, you find these social problems going away.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about current events with the original AV Roundtable, columnist and freelance writer Roger Chesley, conservative community activist and granddad Bill Thomas, associate professor of political science Carol Pretlow, and educator, author, and media consultant Dr. Wil Laveist. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. Chris joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Chris. You're on the air.
Hi. I just wanted to address a previous caller. They brought up health care and all that stuff. I'd like to point out, President Obama did what he could, and he acted in good faith. And I mean, the things they said, like trying to get, you could keep your doctor and you could do that. I mean, he did that in good faith. He just couldn't get the votes. And, that's the same that segues into the current things where we see in the news where, Starbucks and Amazon unionized and all that stuff. What the news doesn't say is that, those companies hire law firms to ensure that there's never a contract reached between the employees and the employers. So what happens is we dissolve the goal is to dissolve the union because everyone loses confidence that the union can get anything done. The same thing, the airwaves were flooded with a bunch of BS to make sure that there's arguments and everything else to make sure we could never get health care passed. And yes, it's a bit of a wreck, but the Equal Rights Bill was a mess when it was passed, but they had to get it through, and it's been improved over the years. Not quick enough, but, it got approval and it made it. And, what we need to do is get more Democrats. I mean, the last Congress was sabotaged by two of them, Sinema and what's the other guy?
Manchin. Yeah,
it was sabotaged. But if they had 15, a majority of 15, maybe they could have gotten something done. And once we have a good majority to get something done, then we can work on electing better Democrats. But it's the agenda of conservatives to flood everything with BS to make people lose confidence. And, then you get these people that, Biden didn't get anything done. Obama didn't get anything done. Well, they tried, but if we got more people to get bills passed, there would be things that got done, and then we could get more progressive Democrats to replace the corporate Democrats.
Okay. Thank you, Chris, for your call. We appreciate that. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, because I mentioned Obama, so just so that he's clear on what I said, is that I said that Obama had he had the entire Congress, Democrats had the Senate and the House, and they were not bold enough and willing enough to pass universal health care or Medicare for all, which would have put us in line with other industrialized nations and would have changed the dynamic concerning how employers have to even deal with health care for their employees. Instead, they punked out. That's what I'm saying. So he wanted it. Wow. He wanted it, yes, absolutely. So they had total control and punked out. So just like the GOP had control with, remember they were talking about repeal and replace, repeal and replace. And what happened? They didn't do it. So this is all this mind game. But my main point was to say that the Democrats have not been bold enough.
So
let me
ahead,
just
Roger.
say on the repeal, and we never saw what this so-called replacement was supposed to be.
Yeah.
They were never serious about. They were very. Many of them wanted to repeal, but they were not serious about coming up with an actual replacement. And so, I think the Obama administration figured out this was the best that we could do to get something through the Congress, in which has been pretty much almost evenly split over the last 16 to 20 years anyway. So I understand you want to be bold, and maybe Biden and maybe the Biden administration needs to be a little bit bolder this year to secure a second term. But sometimes it's very difficult to get things through Congress when it's pretty much evenly split.
That's it.
Yeah. Bill, I want to ask you this question because I'm very curious. What is the appeal of the Republican Party for black people, and especially for black men? Now, we saw Senator Tim Scott tell former President Donald Trump, "I love you." What is the reason? What would, if you were to stand in front of a group of males who are trying to decide which party they want to vote for, what's the reason that they should vote Republican?
I have no clue. I really don't. I don't have a clue as to why people vote Democrat. I just don't think those are our issues. I think we're on a wrong road. I think we're using distractions. I don't think we're looking right in front of what's happening to us and admitting what is happening.
So are you saying that we shouldn't be voting? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, I didn't say that. You said that.
I'm asking.
I said, why are you saying that? Why would you talk to people about being a Republican? I wouldn't talk to people about being a Democrat. I would only talk about people or what their own responsibilities are, is to try to raise your children, have faith in your community. I think we need more things that are Jesus-like in our politics, in our schools, in our community, that we respect one and every one of each other, and other things. I just think you're distracted. I think we need to look and see what's going on in our houses, what's going on in our homes, and then you vote. But voting is not going to get you rich. Hard work is. My last comment, I live in a community in northern Suffolk that is the fourth wealthiest zip code in the whole Hampton Roads region. 33% of my neighbors are black, doing well. Children are doing well. My issue was, how can we template that and what's going on in Virginia Beach and communities and what's going on in York County and other places where children are learning more because they have more resources, because they have more parents together that are working to deliver a God-blessed household in their community. That's what I think, and that's what I would talk to my black brothers about, not voting, about voting for Jesus, doing things that we were taught in our early years. And it could be Muhammad, it could be anybody. But we got to get out of this mindset that somebody's going to do something else for us if we don't. My last comment, we're unhealthy because of what we're eating and what we're consuming. I mean, 80% of America is overweight. I mean, and laugh, but then laugh at this. Martin Luther King's son, Dexter, just passed away with cancer.
He did.
At a very young age. And black men, if you do the statistics and do the analysis, are getting into that trend. We're dying sooner and quicker from diseases that are preventable. So that's my point. No, I'm not going to laugh at that. I'm going to cry over that. And that's what makes me mad about all of this. We should be crying over our children dying in the street and not being educated by us because we don't have enough value in our community to sustain it.
Well, but
go ahead, Roger.
We have to deal with the situations, yes, in our communities, but we also have to deal with voting because that's one of the major ways we can impact society at large. And yes, you might have more effect on the local level and then on the state level, but you should participate in voting at the national level because when you don't, you often get people in there who have no concern about what your values and what your needs are. And so, yes, we want to work on those things in the community, but we can't sit on the sidelines and not participate in voting. And I'll just bring up a story. One of my former colleagues who worked together at the Detroit Free Press, he said he didn't vote in 2020. Very smart, had been nominated for Pulitzers and the like, say he didn't like either of the candidates that year. You can't change the game. This is the construct that you're dealing with. So when you sit on the sidelines, you're basically ceding the game, if you want to call it, to everybody else. So you have to take part in voting, and you have to take part in those other things that Bill is so fond of mentioning here. But, right now we're focusing on voting because it does play a role in the type of leadership you get.
Well, and I mean, the other piece of it, too, is if everybody can't pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. I mean, if you don't have laws and ways of helping everybody to advance, then you have a problem. Let's talk to Mark in Norfolk. Hi, Mark. You're on the air. Hello, Mark.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hi.
There's a lot. One, I agree with Will. The Democrats are terrible at messaging, and they're wimps. You ask why are people voting for Trump? I had so many of my friends come to me after the last election, and they told me they voted for Trump. What Trump represents is a loss of masculinity in our society, and that's why our black men are drifting towards him. Number two, he keeps it plain. He keeps it 100. And the thing is, I tell people that one of the things kind of skewing towards, I think, how Mr. Thomas thinks, when Trump was elected, there were more black businesses created because they understood 100% what Trump represented.
Amen.
Historical black colleges and universities, the numbers went through the roof along with the Deion Sanders factor because we understood exactly what Trump represented. So back to Mr. Thomas's point is, once you understand where somebody's coming from, you can clear your head, clear your mind, stiffen up your muscles, and do for self. And then the last thing that really just gets me really, really upset, there's a brother by the name of Dr. Cornel West that is running as an independent candidate. So Brother Will, as far as the Democratic being bold, when are we as men going to be bold and say whether win or lose on principle, on my moral value, I'm going to vote for Cornel West or anybody else or you write in. We have to show and make a stand based on what our belief system is.
Amen.
Instead of trying to fall into this continual paradigm, the better of two evils. I wouldn't dare teach that losing philosophy to any of my 4 children. You can choose between right and wrong. And if neither one show up on that ballot, then even if you are a lone wolf, stand on your ground.
So, Mark, let me ask you this. So you're saying you would vote, do a write-in or whatever, but you're not saying don't vote.
I'm someone that voted against Clinton for the third party candidate, Ross Perot.
Okay.
So the fact that we are thinking that we are born Republican, we're born Democrats, to me, I just think that's intellectual laziness.
Amen.
And it just shows that we don't have a heart.
Okay, let me let Bill. I hear Bill in the amen corner over here, so let me let him speak. Thanks, Mark, for the call. We appreciate it. Go ahead,
he's
Bill.
Spot on. He's spot on.
And then I'll let you talk, Will. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, so I will say I voted. I have voted in every election that I've been eligible for, and I will vote. But I take the stand that the young man just spoke. No permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. And our interest, and my interest, is black people. My interest is seeing my people grow up and get stronger and have all these issues and sides that other people have. But we're never going to get there if you're going to say, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat or I'm whatever. It's going to be, it's my community. I'm sure that the people that are being booted out of all of these housing projects in Norfolk, in Hampton, and in Newport News, seeing brand new houses coming up based on the blood, sweat, and tears that they lived there for 75 years only to be voted out because they didn't participate
Bill.
in the local election.
Okay.
And I don't care what you say, that's true. The people, the black folks are being booted out of these houses, and now they have no place to go. And nobody wants to hear that, but that's the truth. So vote. Yes, vote.
So in full disclosure, in my company, I do work with the transformation of St. Paul's. That's as far as I can go in terms of what is happening. However, I would encourage everyone to take a deeper look because that your statement is not correct, Bill. But anyway, we're not going to argue. We're not going to argue back and forth on that because I cannot discuss it.
I'm not doing it.
So
I'm just saying, open your eyes and look.
I'm just saying everybody should read and decide for themselves. And so, Will, go ahead. You wanted to respond to Mark.
Right. And I appreciate you saying that, Barbara, because that's a piggyback on what the caller said about intellectual laziness, And so he's pinpointed something very important. Americans like to view themselves in a certain way, and so they want their leaders to reflect that. And Trump, with all of his craziness and all of his immoral behavior, represents that kind of strength in the eyes of many people. That's why I pointed out that there's a lot of white people out there that are behind him because they feel he is at least speaking to them where other politicians have not.
Okay.
Now you go to Biden. Biden is still that same guy that tried to run for president several other times and he was rejected by the country. He's the same guy that threw Anita Hill under the bus. He's the same politician that people have been used to, that people have felt, you know what, this is not working. We need something different. And that's why a lot of people turn to Obama. He was something different. He was not like the rest. And a lot of white people also voted for Obama. So the caller is pointing on something that look, we have to really look at what is, our interest and look at what is going on. And the reason why they're kind of parsing out the black male vote, because that the way our voting structure works with the Electoral College, there are certain battleground states that really are going to decide this election. And a lot of those battleground states, like I'm in one of them, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, right, with a large black community, has a very powerful impact on how Pennsylvania goes. So the pollsters and the strategists are looking to parse out to see what needs to happen and what states can we afford to lose or not lose. And so those are the reasons why they're talking about the black male vote in certain votes. But I think, again, if you have bold leadership, if you come out and represent and go after issues that will target black needs, like I said, economic development. If you notice, Bill started by saying how wealthy his community is compared to other communities less wealthy, more problems. If you address economic development, you address issues such as criminal justice, a lot of these social issues are going to go away where people will be able to get their own houses in order.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Roger.
Okay, so a couple of things that the most recent caller said. The reason why voting for third-party or independent candidates are generally seen as a wasted vote is because historically that's what's been the case. Ross Perot hurt George W. Bush in 1992. George Wallace hurt Hubert Humphrey in 1968. Ralph Nader hurt Al Gore in 2000, basically giving the election to George W. Bush. So if you want to make, I think this is the wrong place to make that stand for just trying to make a point. What you should be doing is who is going to win and who is of the two main candidates is going to most likely represent what I want to be in the presidency. It's just the way it is in the two-party system. Lastly, I fail to understand why black men would want to go for Donald Trump. I compiled a list of some of Donald Trump's greatest hits over the last few decades. He never apologized for running ads in 4 New York City newspapers in 1989 calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty after the Central Park jogger case, when a woman was raped and severely beaten. The Central Park 5, all teens of color, were later exonerated after serving 7 to 13 years behind bars. He was the biggest, loudest promoter of the racist birther claim that Barack Obama wasn't born in the U.S. He'd said to aides during his presidency that blacks are hindered more by lack of initiative than societal impediments. And his immigration policies were especially harsh against Latino migrants. Barbara and I went back and forth on whether I could say a certain phrase in which he related to Haiti and other African nations, and she put the kibosh on it, so I won't say what Trump said to his own aides, but if you remember that far back, you know what that phrase was. Mm-hmm. If this is the way this person thinks about you, why would you give him the most important job in the world? I just fail to see what the attraction would be for Donald Trump.
Well, and Carol, what about the whole issue too of these rappers? You know, some of them are still popular, some of them are not. But that when they say they're going to vote for Trump, the danger of bringing their followers with them.
Yeah, and that is a danger, because I think what happens is, particularly for that age demographic, is they're listening to the beat in the song and they love these people and they say, oh, I'm going with whatever they say, not looking at more
the things like Roger
the
just brought up,
statistics,
for
not
example.
looking at what Trump could actually do, or not even looking at news reports of Trump and his engagement with the black community. In fact, I think I talked the other day in class about him coming to Norfolk State, and all he wanted was a photo op. And bless their hearts, the students wouldn't go for it. They didn't even want to show up there. So
wow, we're running out of time. Let me see if I can get a call in. Vernon joins us from Newport News. Hi, Vernon. You're on the air.
Hi, how y'all doing?
All righty.
All right, I was calling first about the previous, when you were talking about poverty. If we were to eliminate poverty, we probably would eliminate 80% of crime, because most crime is desperation. Mm-hmm. And that would leave just criminals to be locked up. Because let's admit that there are going to be criminal or people who are just going to be criminal no matter how much opportunity they have or whatever. And the other thing, moving on, I don't understand. It used to be that America wanted the president to reflect the best of America. We teach our kids not to be bullies, and yet America chose the biggest bully to be the president of the United States. And then they expect that we're supposed to tell our children that don't pay any attention to the behavior of the president.
Okay.
good point.
And let me let the roundtable respond to that, Vernon. Thanks so much for the call. What do you think, Bill?
Well, I think that we're having a good conversation. I think it's a well one. And I'd like to say something about Barbara. Barbara is a consummate professional, but we're all trying to get to the same end. We want our people to do. We want our people to do better. We want our communities to be stronger, and we want to develop opportunities for our children. That is all we have done. I'll never forget an editorial or op-ed that Roger wrote some years ago. Where's the outrage? And I've kept that. That's got to be 25 years old. But our points are all the same. But I just think we got to figure out what I'm saying or trying to say is that voting you have to do, because that's a privilege of citizenship. And we all do that. But who you vote for is going to depend on what your priorities are. And so if it's one, and I don't think you ever throw your vote away, Roger. I just think you vote for your principles. And if you win, you win. You lose, you lose. But at the end of the day...
Could you tell that to Donald Trump? Because he lost in 2020.
Donald Trump. Why is Donald... Okay, you hate Donald Trump. That's fine. Don't vote for him. Don't vote for him. I'm not going to vote for anybody that I don't think I have any principles with. But that's Donald Trump.
He led an insurrection on the Capitol. So I mean, you know, if you win, you just said if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. But he lost, and he didn't accept it.
And he has a right to do that, I assume.
Not to start an insurrection.
Well, Barbara,
Go ahead.
Connect the dots real quick.
Wait, you guys are yelling.
Hang on, Gail, because we are running out of time. Hold on one second, Bill. Go ahead, Will. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah. To the caller's point, and also Roger's point about why not understanding why people would want to vote for Trump. The reason is, again, and I'm not saying I agree with this logic, but this is the logic. If the guy who has been saying nice things to me and treating me well, his policies, his behavior is still not changing my life, then what do I have to lose by going with the guy who is bombastic and saying all these other things, but is at least willing to, as Trump did, show up to the HBCU week event in D.C. and talk to the black colleges and say that this is what my administration is going to do for you, when other presidents did not. But so if you lost confidence in politicians that have said nice things, have done nice things, then you're like, look, we got to do something different.
Let Roger get the last word.
His leadership led to many people dying in the pandemic, and he lies repeatedly. You know, he has shown, you could say that a lot of people in 2016 might not have known who he was. We knew who he was in 2020, and he still almost won. It is amazing the level that we bring ourselves down to in this country sometimes to try to promote white supremacy.
Don't vote for him.
Bill, you just sum it up very, very, very succinctly, right?
Amen. I agree. We agree on that final point for sure.
Well, roundtable.
Don't do it.
We've got 1 minute left. Who wants to have the last word? Carol?
Vote is not.
Make sure that you vote. Bill?
Hug your children and your grandchildren and make sure they're in home, like they used to say. It's 10 o'clock in Kansas City. Do you know where your children are? We hated that man. We hated that reporter who said that. Hated him. Hated him to death.
Oh, gosh. Go ahead, Will. Something short.
Don't believe the hype. Don't vote for him.
Roger, you get the very last word.
This election is important. Don't sit it out.
Thank you, the original Another View Roundtable pundits. We will have you guys back in another couple months, and we look forward to that. And I just want to remind the audience that Dr. Henry Louis Gates' newest docuseries called Gospel airs this coming Monday and Tuesday, 9 p.m. on WHRO TV 15. Be sure to tune in. And tomorrow night, on February the 9th at 9 p.m. is the Gospel Concert, featuring a lot of your favorite gospel music. So if you were a part of our show last week, you know what that's all about. Be sure to tune in. And we hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Another View Roundtable, and that we've given you food for thought as you carefully consider whom you will vote for in November. The most important thing is that you vote. Share this show with a friend. Go to anotherviewradio.org and download the podcast. And while you're there, please sign up for our eView newsletter. It's a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. Next week on Another View, up close and personal with Norfolk's newest power couple. You'll have to tune in to find out who they are. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer. And Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Happy Valentine's Day in advance, and let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever. Whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.